Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about JJ McCarthy and some of the varying opinions about him going into this draft cycle, but now let's do a top 10 Tuesday. Let's talk about quarterback and wide receiver duos going into 2024. There are a ton to choose from. There are a million guys across the country that I'm very interested in, and I cannot wait to watch this upcoming year. And it was really hard to make this list, but I got my 10 and I'm going to stick to it. I know there will be people in the comments here that are none too happy, but I think I have a solid list here. So let's start up top with Noah Fafita and Datoria McMillan. This is a very interesting number one decision. I'll be totally honest with you. Obviously, Noah Fafita is not the best quarterback in the nation. Datoria McMillan, in my opinion, might be one of the best wide receivers in the country, but some have Luther Burden over him or Travis Hunter or whoever you want. But the reason I picked these two is really mainly because they're in total lockstep. They fully understand each other. They know how, McMillan knows how Fafita throws the ball. Fafita knows when McMillan's going to come out of his break and how he comes out of his break. They are on absolute lockstep. And I think it's something that could really give Datoria McMillan a very good chance to win the Biletnikoff in 2024. Definitely someone that I think is a mainstay in that conversation and will really shoot up the NFL draft boards as the season goes on, in my opinion. The rest of these guys are a little bit tougher to order, and I think a lot of that has to do with some transfer additions. A lot of that has to do with some new players having to step into big roles. And one of the transfer teams that I've set up here is Dylan Gabriel and Evan Stewart. I think Gabriel is the ultimate facilitator. He might be one of the best, if not the best facilitator in the entire country. The dude just puts the ball where it needs to be like 80% of the time. It's absolutely insane. I think with Evan Stewart, he fits his mold very, very well. I was in between him or Tez Johnson for this role, and I think either of them could be the top guy for Oregon, but I think Evan Stewart fits Dylan Gabriel a little bit better and will have a little bit more success. It's going to be incredible to watch Will Stein work with these two guys along with Tez Johnson, because this might be a more talented, more dangerous group than they had a year ago, and that offense was really good a year ago. So very excited to see what they can do there. At the number 3 position, I have Quinn Ewers and Jonte Cook, and I've seen a couple of these rankings have Quinn Ewers and Isaiah Bond in this role, and I feel very good about Jonte Cook. I think he is someone that has been in the program at least a year, was under Xavier Worthy last year and got, runs here and there, but not a lot of playing time. Steve Sarkisian is not necessarily known for rotating wide receivers very often, so Cook mainly was learning under Xavier Worthy a year ago, and I think he's ready to roll. I think he's ready to be the guy for this team and be the number one receiver, and I think him and Quinn Ewers are in absolute lockstep. Obviously, him and Isaiah Bond, it seems like him and Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden are kind of finding that rhythm very, very quickly, but at the end of the day, I think Jonte Cook might be the most dangerous wide receiver on the entire staff. I think he's someone that is going to, it might not be the guy you're worried most about coming into the game, but he will be the guy you're talking about at halftime and making adjustments to guard him. So it'll be really interesting to see all of this unfold. Isaiah Bond obviously is a candidate for that role. Matthew Golden, another one. DeAndre Moore has been making tons of waves in their early spring practices, so any number of those guys could be the number one receiver, but I'd lead Jonte Cook in that group of remarkable wide receivers that they have over there at Texas. And then number 4, I have Brady Cook and Luther Burden, and this is a lot like the Fafita McMillan duo because they're an absolute lockstep. I think Luther Burden is the most talented and the best wide receiver in the entire country. I think he is an absolute game changer. Brady Cook is just a consummate professional. He's going to put the ball on time, on target, and when you do that with Luther Burden, good things happen because it's a matter of just getting the ball into this kid's hands, and he makes just ridiculous plays. So he's someone I'm very excited to watch, and I think that this duo, if they can put it together the way they did a year ago, the SEC might be on watch for the Missouri Tigers. And then at 5, I have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And these are two that could be much higher on the list because the talent level of these two are just off the charts. Both these guys are absolutely insane. Obviously, they have a good relationship. Last year, Travis Hunter was a huge part of their offense. But I do think that Colorado has made some adjustments to their team, and one of the big-time adjustments they made is bringing in LeJontay Wester, a FAU transfer, into town. He is an absolute dude. I think he's a wide receiver that I honestly almost replaced Travis Hunter with him because I think he could be the leading receiver for Colorado this upcoming year. But at the end of the day, I do think Travis Hunter is going to be a huge piece of this team, and the confidence between the two has to be a huge plus. But I do think Travis Hunter will play a little bit less offense this upcoming year because of the introduction of LeJontay Wester, and we'll see how that kind of develops. So that's why I have them at 5 and not up at like 2 or 3 where they definitely could be. And then I go to UGA and Carson Beck and Dominic Lovett. And again, this is one that you had some names to choose from. You could have gone Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas, London Humphreys. You could have gone Dylan Bell if you really wanted to. But I ended up going Dominic Lovett, and I think last year when you had Lovett come over to UGA, and there were a lot of people looking at that as a huge addition, and it really was. But there was also Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers on that roster, and there's only so many targets to go around. So Lovett was a little bit hidden last year, made some really good plays, but wasn't necessarily the feature piece. I think he is now ready to jump into that role and be a big part of this offense. I think having London Humphreys come in opens up even more roles for Dominic Lovett. So this is a very interesting team that is going to spread around the rock to tight ends and wide receivers, but I think if there was a guy that I'm leaning towards being the go-to guy for Carson Beck, I think it would be Dominic Lovett. So I have them at the 6th position. And then I have Jackson Dart and Trey Harris, the Ole Miss duo. They are just remarkable, and they are an absolute lockstep like a couple of the guys above them. And they are also in lockstep with Lane Kiffin, which is a huge part of this. Lane Kiffin has been an absolute mastermind of getting Trey Harris open, and even when you can't get him open, he's pretty much open. He's open 90% of the time unless there are multiple guys on him. So he's someone that I absolutely love. I think could have an absolute breakout season. Is definitely one of the top 5 to 7 wide receivers in the entire country. And then Jackson Dart slowly coming into his own more and more. I'm very excited to see what he can do. Then at 8, we got Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, two guys at Miami right now. Cam Ward transferred over from Washington State. Xavier Restrepo has been there for a minute, and he is a remarkable receiver, probably one of the most underrated receivers, He can make all types of plays and is an absolute game changer with Jacoby George next to him. He takes up a lot of attention, so Xavier Restrepo fills in the gaps, and I think Cam Ward is going to have to find him early and often. I think he's going to be the third down guy pretty consistently throughout the season, so very excited to see what those two can do because Xavier Restrepo is making crazy plays with not quite as high of quarterback play as Cam Ward will likely bring to Miami. And then at the 9 position, I have Will Howard and Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka is very interesting this upcoming year because he's officially the guy in Columbus. He sat behind some remarkable receivers, most recently Marvin Harrison Jr., and now it's his time to fully take the reins and be the number 1 receiver, and that is a thing that people handle differently, obviously. So it'll be really interesting to see how he handles that. Can he jump into that position and be totally confident, or do they have to look elsewhere like Carnell Tate or Brandon Ennis for that number 1 role? But I think Egbuka will be more than fine, and I expect him to be the guy. And then Will Howard, I think, is just going to put the ball on target. That is really all you have to do with this wide receiver group that you're going to have at Ohio State. Just put the ball on target the way that Kyle McCord did not do a year ago, and you'll be okay. You will have a formidable offense. You will do incredible things. So I feel good about Will Howard's ability to do that. I think he's going to be incredible. And then the number 10, a little bit of a wild card. I'll be totally honest. There were definitely some names that I thought of to go in this 10 role, but I really like Cam Rising and Dorian Singer. I think this is a duo that is new, obviously, with Dorian Singer coming over from USC, Cam Rising coming off an injury. There's a lot of worry around Utah, but if Cam Rising is healthy, I know him to be a Pac-12 champion quarterback. I know him to be a guy that executes an offense at a remarkably high level and is remarkably on target game in, game out. And Dorian Singer with the ball in his hands is dangerous. So putting those two things together, as long as Cam Rising is healthy, I think this is one of the best duos in the country. I think they are someone that maybe people aren't talking about right now, but as the Big 12 season unfolds and Utah starts to become one of the big-time players there, they'll be talking about it more and more because Dorian Singer is a remarkable wide receiver, and as long as the ball is in his hands, he'll be more than fine. And then some honorable mentions that just were off the list. Jackson Arnold and Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson is remarkably talented as well, someone that I really like at the wide receiver position. Jackson Arnold just worries me a little bit going into his first year, starting fully, going into the SEC. A lot of things around him, the O-line not being quite as solid as you would have liked, but this is a very formidable duo, and if the O-line can put it together, watch out for them because OU could put together a season that no one, I think no one, I mean the Vegas over-under line I think is 7.5, so really no one is expecting from them other than Sooner fans, but then we have Jalen Milroe and Jalen Hale. I do think Jalen Hale will end up being the number one guy over there. There are tons of guys that will be going after that spot. Kendrick Law is one of them. Ryan Williams coming in as a freshman could even be a wide receiver one, but I really like Jalen Hale. I think he fits Jalen Milroe's play style really well, and I think he could be the guy that jumps up into that number one role for Bama, but there's a lot of question marks at that wide receiver position right now for Bama, so we'll see how that unfolds. And then Haynes King and Eric Singleton Jr., two guys that made huge waves in the ACC a year ago. We had Haynes King was the leading passing touchdown leader in the ACC, and Eric Singleton was an All-American freshman last year at receiver. So I think both these guys are in lockstep. I think they fit each other really well. Eric Singleton is the ultimate quarterback for the offense that Buster Faulkner is running. So very excited to see what they can do and build off what they had a year ago. And then Grayson McCall and Kevin Concepcion. Oh, did my best. But Grayson McCall is going to be a very good quarterback. He puts the ball on target, and Kevin Concepcion has really burst onto the scene late last season and is going to be a big-time target for NC State. And if they can put it together, then NC State is one of the more interesting teams in the entire country. But that will do it for the Top 10 Tuesday. Obviously, that was a very tough list to put together. You have to weigh a lot of different things. But I think I put together a pretty good 10. I think that number 10 spot is going to be a little contentious, but at the end of the day, I feel good about Cam Rising and Dorian Singer going into this season. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Tommy Brzee again. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference for us. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the socials for all of the updates and content. It is obviously March Madness season, so my guy Nelson over on the basketball podcast has you fully covered there. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.